Hi School of Rock. Hope you're having a good time. Hope you're getting on fine. Here's another little video for you today. Oh, hi Jasper. We've not seen you for a little while. How are you? Jasper, what have you got on your head? Oh, I can see it's a mask. But why are you wearing it like that? Well, Jasper, do you know what he said? He said because otherwise people couldn't hear him. Well, Jasper, people can hear you, and actually nobody can hear you because you don't actually speak. Let's take that off. We've seen a lot of these around, haven't we? Everywhere now, when we have to go in a shop, we have to wear them. And that's to try and keep us safe, isn't it? And you know, it got me thinking about different sorts of masks. You know, people, we tend to put masks on so people see us in a certain way. Sometimes we put a mask on to pretend to be brave. In actual fact, underneath we might be a real scaredy cat. Do you do that, Jasper? Sometimes we put on a mask to be confident when underneath we're not very confident at all. One of the best ones is when adults, when they say to each other, "How are you?" And everybody says, "I'm fine," when really sometimes they're not really fine underneath. You know, God doesn't look at the masks that we wear, but he doesn't look at us on the outside, but God looks at our heart, doesn't he, Jasper? And today we're going to read a story of somebody whose heart was for God, and he was chosen to be king, even though he didn't look like one on the outside, but his heart was right. So let's listen to the story. "Go to Bethlehem," God told Samuel. "You'll find a new king there." Samuel's job was to listen to God and tell people what God said. So Samuel went to the little town of Bethlehem. God told Samuel to go to Jesse's house. God was going to choose one of Jesse's sons to be the new king. Jesse had 7 strong sons. Now, in those days, if you were going to be king, you didn't have to be the richest or the cleverest, although that was always nice. You had to look like a king, which meant you had to be the tallest and the strongest, so you could carry the longest swords and the biggest armour and defeat everyone. And it didn't hurt to be handsome either. Samuel asked Jesse to bring him each son in turn. So Jesse brought the oldest, tallest, strongest son. This must be the new king, Samuel thought. He looks like a king. But God didn't choose him. You're thinking about what he looks like on the outside, God told Samuel, but I am looking at his heart. So Jesse showed Samuel his next oldest, tallest, strongest son, but God didn't choose him either. In fact, he didn't choose any of the 7 sons. Samuel said, "Is that all?" Jesse laughed. Well, there's the youngest one, but he's just the weakling of the family. He's only teeny." "Bring him," said Samuel. Jesse's youngest son came running up, and God spoke quietly to Samuel. He does that sometimes, doesn't he? He speaks to us quietly. "This is the one." His name was, have you guessed it? David. David. "He has a heart like mine," God said. "It's full of love. He will help me with my secret rescue plan. And one of his children's children will be the king, and that king will rule forevermore." I wonder if you know who that is. Samuel anointed David's head with oil, which was a special way to show that you are God's chosen king. "You will be the new king one day," Samuel told him. And sure enough, when David grew up, he became king. God chose David to be king because God was getting his people ready for an even greater king who was coming. And God chose David, didn't he? Not because of what he looked like on the outside, because he wasn't big and strong. He wasn't tall and handsome, but he looked at his heart. And that's what God wants to look at, our hearts. He doesn't bother about what we appear to other people, what masks we put on each day, but he wants us to have a heart for God. Wear your mask!